Daniela's dad told her no one would ever pay for what she was about to sell. She built it anyway. It became step one in a sales system for a marketing agency that closes 12-month retainers. Yes, 12-month retainers. In this episode, you'll get an inside look at that system, including the offer that changed how a prospect shows up to a call and how she pitches a 12-month commitment that's less about length and more about milestones. Quick heads up, there's a bit of background noise on Daniela's side of this recording. I thought about re-recording, but this conversation was too good to sit on. Stick with me, it's worth it. Here's my conversation with Daniela. Welcome to the Small But Mighty Agency podcast. Growing a boutique agency can feel like you're always the underdog, competing against bigger shops with bigger budget. But small agencies aren't the underdogs, you're the upgrade. Here on this podcast, I'll help you see your size as the advantage it actually is and build a business that's profitable, sustainable, and doesn't depend on you to keep running. I'm your host, Audrey Joy Kwan. I've worked behind the scenes of multiple seven-figure agencies, coached and consulted with more than 180 agency owners, and supported an agency owner through a successful sale and exit. I'm also the founder of Agency Together, a community where boutique agency owners build the collaborations and strategic partnerships that help them grow. Here on the podcast, you'll get real-world insights and practical ideas to help you work less, earn more, and grow without burning out. Hey friends, welcome back. Today we're talking about the sales system behind one agency's path to predictable recurring revenue and why none of it worked until this agency owner stopped serving two industries and picked one. My guest today is Daniela, founder of Findable Digital Marketing. She helps design and construction firms generate qualified leads through SEO, social media, and email. Hey, Daniela, we've been trying to get you on for the last month. I'm glad it finally worked out.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited about this topic.
Well, you've gone all in on serving design and construction firms. Let's start there. What led you to narrow your niche in that direction?
It took me years to niche down. When I was working a 9-to-5 job as a marketing manager, I really liked the company I was working for, but it was a bit slow and I wanted something a little bit more fast-paced and exciting. So I got into freelance, and my very first two freelance clients were a landscape architect and a cannabis e-commerce company. Very two different clientele, but that gave me enough momentum and referrals. So the landscape architect ended up referring me to interior designers and more landscape architects and more architects. And then the cannabis e-commerce company referred me to other cannabis dispensaries. And so by 2022, 2023, around there, I had a 50-50 mix between these two clienteles. And I understood them a lot better at that time. I understood the market, the pros, the cons, the highs and the lows, and I saw the most long-term growth within the design and construction industry. And it was in 2023 that I decided to go all in with this industry.
Oftentimes when an agency has two different types of ideal clients, it's hard to let go of one. It's hard to make that decision. Which one do you let go of? And you mentioned you saw growth in the design and construction. Tell us more about the growth that you were seeing.
Yeah, I was comparing the cannabis and the design and construction industry a lot. So in the cannabis industry, there was what we call this green boom in Canada. So I think cannabis was legalized in 2018 or 19, and there was a lot of interest, a lot of demand because now it's novel, and there were also a lot of licenses going out. So there were a lot of businesses. So that was great because typically the people that enter the cannabis industry are young, they understand digital, you don't have to explain it to them all that much. The sales cycle was 1 or 2 weeks from the moment that they make an inquiry to the moment they sign the contract and pay a deposit. However, because the industry was so young, all these businesses were pretty much startups. They were all new, and a lot of business owners didn't have strong sales skills and systems. And like I said, it was a boom. It was novel. So I knew I could see a few years into it that the boom was going to end and that a lot of these businesses were going to merge, consolidate, or close. The design and construction industry, in contrast, was the complete opposite. A lot of people in this industry have been in business for 10, 15, 20, 30 years, and they've been relying entirely on referrals or relationships. And the pandemic really woke them up to the digital age. And so there was a demand for a marketer that could educate them and help them get on board. And once you build that trust and that relationship to do one part of their marketing, whether it's their website, their social media, their proposals, whatever it may be, then there's a lot of loyalty in this industry. And I understood very quickly that I could grow with them. And it's been true. They are slow to take on a marketing partner. So there's a lot of education, takes quite a bit of time to nurture relationships. But once you sign on with a client in this industry, a lot of them have been with us for 3 to 4 years. Every year they add something else to their marketing stack and strategy, and the contracts get bigger and longer with time.
I think a lot of people wonder, how do you make these decisions? And the analysis you considered was very much future focused. And so you looked at where that industry has to be in the next 5 years. That's a really important question. And a couple of other things important to point out. There are strengths within the design and construction world, and then there are weaknesses. And one of the weaknesses is their understanding of the digital marketing ecosystem seemed to be a bit behind, which made it advantageous for an agency owner because at the end of the day, they need you more. And like you mentioned, the loyalty factor is really important. It sounds like once they come into your world, they stay for a long time. And not only do they stay, but the lifetime value seems to increase as well.
Exactly.
There's a lot of agency owners out there who are testing niches, but they're not going full out on the message saying, this is who we serve, period.
Yeah.
Now you are out here saying, this is who we serve, period. How long did it take you to get there?
It wasn't until about 6 to 9 months into running the agency and being self-employed full time where I was like, okay, there are a lot of marketing agencies out there. I've got to stand out somehow. And I've got this momentum with this two clientele, design and cannabis. I don't know enough about them. Like, I'm not an expert. I don't have a background in cannabis. I don't have a background in architecture and design. I didn't go to those respective schools. I didn't work in the industry. I'm a pure marketer. So I didn't feel confident going all in and making a decision. I know some people, like there's one person that comes to mind. He works in recruiting and he worked for a firm that had a whole division in cannabis. And so he had a lot of time working in the industry as a cannabis recruiter before branching off on his own. And when he branched off on his own and started his own recruiting firm, he just specialized that from day one. I'm telling it like a linear story, but it was quite messy in it. So yeah, it was 2021. I think I said, okay, I'm going to stick with these two niches. I'm going to put both of them on my website. I'm going to introduce myself as doing both of them. And time or the market will tell me what I got to specialize in. And it was 2 years later in 2023 where I decided to choose one and make that my thing.
So it wasn't as clean and clear cut as like, okay, I did an analysis, I saw the writing on the wall, and then bam, I made the decision. There was time, there was testing, there was putting it out there and seeing what was growing. Now, what has become easier for you now that your positioning is more focused?
Definitely sales and marketing. Showing up on a sales call, having a lot of experience in the industry, knowing what words trigger people, what they like to hear, what they don't like to hear, what's icky to them, having case studies to back up what I'm saying has definitely made the biggest change. And that's what I noticed from the get-go. And then with time, also, it's made operations a lot easier. It's made hiring easier, creating systems, templates, checklists, rinse and repeat documents like social media templates, for example, analytics and reporting dashboards. When all the clients have a similar goal, it's easy to work backwards and create efficiencies. So that took time to see, but it's definitely there. I'm a big believer that specializing and type positioning makes everything in your business easier or more efficient.
Let's talk about marketing and sales and how that's gotten easier for you. Give us an example of what you do for marketing and sales and why you feel it's easier than 4 years ago when you were in a space where you're saying yes to everyone.
Yeah, I would say the first thing is how we get leads. So about 40% of our leads come from Google, but 3 to 4 years ago, it was about 80%. So I've added to our marketing mix. We do social media, we do email, we do podcasts, events. But yeah, Google has been a pretty consistent lead generator for us. And that's because I knew who we were speaking to, which means I know what keywords to target. If you go on Google and search marketing agency for interior designers or marketing agency for construction, will probably come up on the page of Google. And so having just one target customer in our marketing strategy has made it much easier for me to get leads in a very predictable way. So we get about at least bare minimum 3 to 4 leads every single month consistently from Google. And then of that 3 to 4, I would say 1 turns into a client, and our prices start at $3,000 a month. So yeah, I would say that's the biggest one that comes to mind.
I think it's easier for someone to reach out to you when they see themselves reflected in your business. And with your niche, which are design firms and construction firms, if they land on your website and they see design firms or construction firms gaining success by working with you, it's going to make it easier for them to say, I got to talk to Daniela and her team, versus landing on a website where, sure, they might have one design firm, one construction firm, but a whole bunch of other clients. So it's harder to see themselves in that conversation. And that's the beauty of having a really tight niche like you do. It's that the industry can see themselves working with you very clearly. And there's also a lot of credibility because they hop onto your site and they might see 10 case studies from design firms and it's aspirational. They might look through it and aspire to be like one of them, which then also encourages them to reach out. Anyone who knows me knows that I stand the soapbox of specialization, and I firmly believe it makes marketing and sales easier. And speaking of sales, let's talk about sales conversations and how those have really changed for you now that you have a niche that you're able to get deep into.
Yeah, our sales process has evolved. I'm constantly trying different things, but the structure has been pretty consistent in the past 3 years since specializing. Because a big chunk of our leads come in cold, it's really important that our sales process does a good job of leading people through, educating and selling them at the same time and building that relationship. I can tell you how we've structured our sales process. So someone will land on the website, they fill out a short questionnaire, they book a time, and they are now on my calendar, and we have a 20-minute call. In that 20-minute call, I have standardized questions that I always ask. In this industry, because this industry is very relationship or referral heavy historically, you'll find that a lot of people don't track their leads. And so I'll typically lead with that. First, I'll ask them, why are you interested in marketing at this time? They'll tell me. And then I'll say, how many leads did you get in the past 12 months? And they'll give me an estimate. And I said, okay, what if we were to double that? And they start to get excited. And I said, okay, what's stopping you from doing that? They'll tell me. And then I'll go into the pitch and say, okay, well, this is who we are. You know, we have a track record of working with people like you, and we double your leads. And we understand that you're not selling tacos. It's not like you want 200 customers a month. You want high quality clients that want to do really cool work, and your services are very expensive. And so we've designed our entire business to be for people like you. And this is, what an engagement could look like, the timeline, the price. However, we start always with a paid consultation. It's $800. It's 1 hour. I'll get you to fill out a questionnaire. We need at least 3 business days to prepare, and we'll pitch a strategy to you. And if you like the strategy, you can implement it yourself, or you can hire us to do it. And that will lead to a custom proposal, and we'll apply the consultation to your first invoice. And I would say about 50 to 60% of the time, people say yes to that paid consultation. We put that together, and it's a template. it's a templatized document. I get my team to do it. And then from there, if they're still serious and still interested, then we'll present a proposal. And I say it's a custom proposal, but it's actually also templatized. We have about 4 packages, 4 to 5 packages, and then we'll cherry pick the top 3 that we think is relevant to that person. I introduce our case studies throughout. I have time to explain and educate how this is relevant to them and really get them to imagine how this would be applicable to them and get paid at the same time by making it a small offer. And they're engaged, they're committed, they have skin in the game because they paid for it. There's so much here to dissect. I know I'm saying a lot, but I hope the takeaway is our sales process is refined. And I attribute that to positioning because we have a very clear target customer in mind. We've been able to create this process a lot faster and learn because the feedback is so clear and it's coming from the same target customer. And we're faster at recognizing patterns and then creating solutions according to those patterns.
What you pointed out is how you've been able to improve your sales process because you understand the buyer better and better after each conversation because you're speaking to the same buyer. I don't mean it's the same person, but what I do mean is that it's the person in the industry that has very similar problems and they want someone who can speak their language, and you're coming in hot, meaning that you're not asking them, hey, what challenges are you facing? No, you're probably coming in and saying, I've worked with 20 of your types of firms, and these are the challenges that I know exist. And immediately they feel taken care of. And I think that shortens the sales cycle right away. That is possible when you are very clear about your niche, when you've had so many conversations, when you've been in their businesses. It's very easy for you to analyze the challenges. And I think that creates trust. Now, you mentioned that you have a mini offer inside your sales conversations. That mini offer is the $800 audit. Tell us about the reasoning behind that, why that offer. And just so the audience is clear, your MRR is a 12-month contract.
Okay, so to recap, I started the agency in 2020. I narrowed down 2 specializations, so design and cannabis in 2021. I put that all over my social media, my website, how I introduce myself to people. And we're getting on the first page of Google for these keywords, we're getting leads. And I'm getting a minimum of 3 to 4 leads a month. Some months I'm getting 10, 12, 15, and I'm still one person at this point. I don't have the team that I have today. So this is 2022. I'm feeling overwhelmed with all these cold leads that are finding me on Google, and people are doing these discovery calls. I just remember around that time feeling overwhelmed with the number of leads and then how many of them ghosted me afterwards. I think I probably did start doing the consultations or the audits for free at some point, and maybe a scaled back version of it. And I remember someone saying, oh, this is so generous of you. You gave me so much information. You spent so much time looking at my website. I got so much value. And now I feel bad because I don't think I want to move forward. And that was like oh man, okay, I'm giving too much. I'm giving too much of my energy to too many people. And several months before, side story, but it's relevant, I got hit by a car in October 2021. I was hospitalized for several months and slowly had to ease my way back into work. And in those recovery months, I was doing physio. I was going like 3-5 times a week, and I was seeing new people come in and what their process would have been for someone that comes in privately. And I was seeing that they were doing paid assessments before they even give you a treatment plan and help you work towards your goal of full range of motion or mobility. I thought, that's brilliant. Like, they're not giving free advice. They are doing an assessment. They spend 1 hour understanding the situation before coming up with recommendations, and they're getting paid for it. And I was going through this, overwhelm with the number of leads and the ghosting. And I thought, I'm going to do that. I'm going to charge people for an assessment. It's not something I'd seen a lot in the marketing world. You see branding people do that, but not really SEO or social media, or like digital marketers do that as much. They just leap right into a proposal. And I got so much pushback from everyone, from peers, from my family, from my friends. My dad told me no one is ever going to pay you for that. They're like, that's crazy. My dad said that. So I started off charging $50. People said yes. Then I bumped the price to $100. People still said yes. I bumped it up to $350, and I was at that price point for a while. Some people said no, but most people said yes. Then I bumped it up to $500, and now I'm at $800. And I think I could go up to $1,200 and still get yeses, but I'm happy with $800, and it's been a huge game changer. People respect me more. Now on these calls, they see me as an authority. They take my advice, my recommendations more seriously. They're more committed to the process. And then when I give them the big proposal, right, the $3,000 a month or $36,000 a year minimum price, it's not as daunting. They've already spent time and money, although not a lot, but they've already spent time and money. So I can see that they're committed and primed for the bigger proposal. So I can go on and on about all the advantages, but that is it in a nutshell and how I came to it.
I think sometimes people book a call and they have a conversation with you. They have a core question. They get that question answered and poof, they're off. And so rather than spending time on the call, giving away all the goods, it makes absolute sense to figure out who's really serious about long-term impact. So I always say this, a great micro offer creates a good problem. What that means is it gives value to the person buying it. That value generates a problem that they can see, and they of course can either choose to solve it themselves or they can hire you to solve it. But nonetheless, that's what a great micro offer is. Now, let's talk about the 12-month retainers. For someone who knows that they need more predictable revenue, they're probably thinking, yes, I want a 12-month retainer. On the other side of it, I can also hear someone listening to this episode and thinking, I've never sold a 12-month retainer before. Why do you think people in your business are buying 12-month retainers?
It's just the nature of what we do. A lot of our clients are not ready to do paid ads. They really are needing to build a foundation with their brand. So we're doing a lot of organic marketing. We're helping them get on Google Maps. So getting a Google Maps listing set up. Some of them don't have it. Getting reviews, optimizing their website, creating a sales funnel, making sure that everything points back to the contact page. Yeah. So because what we do is a lot of foundational work, we're really spending the first 6 months building the foundation. And then it's at the 6-month mark and onwards that you see a return. So you start to see the inquiries pick up and compound. And so if someone were to leave or just do the 6 months, they wouldn't see a full ROI from their work. They need to do the 12 months. So it is a big commitment, but every single client that stays with us for 12 months, and you can see this in our case studies, every single client that stays for 12 months, we're able to double their inquiries every single time. I don't say that to be arrogant. It's just that if you're committed to the process for 12 months, you're going to see a return. And we also have KPIs, and we do internal check-ins every 2 weeks to make sure that we're progressing in the right direction. Like, it's something we keep a very, very close eye on because it's it's a big commitment. It's a big promise to make.
Okay, I hear a couple of things. I hear the 12-month journey that they take with you. You're very clear about the milestones. It's not just, hey, join us for 12 months and here's the retainer that you need to buy.
Right.
It's less buy this package. It's more, here are these milestones that we intend.
Here's the results that we're aiming for.
And so, again, it's selling the results across 12 months. But I also think what's really helpful are the case studies that demonstrate what happens when they stay with you for 12 months. So if you only did 6 months, you'd be losing in many ways because you'd be wasting money because you're only going halfway. But look at all these clients who have spent 12 months. Look at the results. This is what happens when you do commit. I love that you've painted that picture very clearly because then it's not a matter of 12 months is too long. It's a matter of, it just takes 12 months. And that's a mindset shift. And I love that you've gathered proof to showcase the 12 months is where it needs to be at. I'm so appreciative of you being here and sharing your marketing and sales process and why it's infinitely stronger because you've niched down. And thank you for being so transparent with everything today. Now, if someone wanted to reach out and find you, where could they do that?
We are on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, but you can find us at findableigitalmarketing.com. Our social media handles is Findable Digital Marketing. And I put out a weekly email newsletter specifically for the design and construction industry about sales and marketing. So if you're interested in our take and how we do things and also the industry, please sign up.
Thank you so much for being here, Daniela.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for hanging out with me at the Small But Mighty Agency podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean the world to me if you hit the follow or subscribe button in your podcast app and share it with a friend. I'll see you on the next one.